Hey, Mama Selena for African Daisy, and I hope that today you're having a fantastic day. It is Wednesday, so it's Wednesday in the Word. I have my coffee, and we are going to dig into Deuteronomy 4:1-40. So this is, yes, so I'm excited. So let's just get reading here and see what it has to say. So this is Moses talking to the children of Israel. He says, "Now, O Israel, listen and pay attention to the statutes and the judgments, God's legal decisions, which I am teaching you to do, so that you may live and go in and take possession of the land which the Lord your God, the God of your fathers, is giving you. You shall not add to the word which I am commanding you, or take away from it, so that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I am commanding you. Your eyes have seen what the Lord did at Baal Peor for all the men who followed and participated in the worship of Baal of Peor. The Lord your God destroyed them from among you. But you who held tightly to the Lord your God are alive today, every one of you. Look, I have taught you statutes and commandments and judgments, just as the Lord my God has commanded me, so that you may do them in the land which you are entering to possess. So keep and do them, for that is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples, who will hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what great nation is there that has a God so near to it, that the Lord your God is to us whenever we call on him? Or what great nation has statutes and judgments so righteous, upright, just, as this whole law which I am placing before you today? Only pay attention and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget the things which your eyes have seen, and they do not depart from your heart all the days of your life. Make them known to your children and your grandchildren, impressing these things on their mind and penetrating their hearts with these truths. Especially the day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb or Mount Sinai, when the Lord said to me, assemble the people to me, and I will let them hear my words, so that they may learn to fear me with awe-filled reverence and profound respect all the days they live on the land, and so that they may teach their children. You approached and stood at the foot of the mountain burned with fire to the very heart of the heavens, darkness, cloud, and thick gloom. Then the Lord spoke to you from the midst of the fire. You heard the sound of the words, but you saw no form. There was only a voice. So he declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to follow, the 10 Commandments. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. The Lord commanded me at that time to teach you the statutes and judgments, so that you might do them in the land which you are going to enter to possess. So pay attention and watch yourselves carefully, for you did not see any form of God on the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb from the midst of the fire, so that you do not act corruptly and make for yourselves carved or sculpted image to worship in the form of any figure, the likeness of a male or female, the likeness of any animal that is on the earth, or any winged bird that flies in the sky, the likeness of anything that crawls on the ground, or any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. And beware that you do not raise your eyes towards heaven and see the sun and the moon and the stars and all the hosts of heaven, and let yourselves be led astray and worship them and serve them, mere created bodies, which the Lord your God has allotted to serve and benefit all the peoples under the whole heaven. But the Lord has taken you and brought you out of the iron smelting furnace of Egypt to be a people for his own possession, as you are to this day. Now the Lord was angry with me at the waters of Meribah because of you, and he swore an oath that I would not cross the Jordan, and that I would not enter the good land which the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance. For I'm going to die in this land. I'm not going to cross the Jordan, but you shall cross over and take possession of this good land. So be on your guard and watch yourselves, so that you do not forget the covenant of the Lord your God, which he made with you, and make for yourselves a carved or sculpted image in the form of anything which the Lord your God has forbidden you. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire. He's a jealous, impassioned God, demanding what is rightfully and uniquely his. When you become the father of children and grandchildren and have grown old in the land, then if you corrupt yourselves by making a carved or sculpted image in the form of anything for the purpose of worship and do evil in the sight of the Lord your God, provoking him to anger, I call heaven and earth as a witness against you today that you will soon utterly perish from the land which you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You shall not live long in it, but you'll be utterly destroyed. The Lord will scatter and disperse you among the peoples, the pagan nations, and you will be left few in number among the nations where the Lord drives you. And there you will serve false foreign gods and the work of human hands, lifeless images of wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor smell the offerings of food given to them. But from there you will seek the Lord your God and you will find him if you search for him with all your heart and all your soul. When you are in distress and tribulation, and all these things come on you in the latter days, you will return to the Lord your God and listen to his voice. For the Lord your God is a merciful and compassionate God. He will not fail you nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant with your fathers, which he swore to you. Indeed, ask now about the days that are past, those days which were before you, since the day that God created man on the earth, and ask from one end of the heaven to the other, has anything been done like this great thing, or has anything been heard like it? Did any people ever hear the voice of God speaking out of the midst of the fire, as you heard and still live? Or has any man-made God ever tried to go and take for himself a nation from within another nation by trials, by signs and wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by an outstretched arm, by great terrors, as the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? It was shown to you so that you might have personal knowledge and comprehend that the Lord is God. There is no other besides him. Out of the heavens he let you hear his voice to discipline and admonish you. And on earth he let you see his great fire, and you heard his words from the midst of the fire. And because he loved your fathers, he chose their descendants who followed them and brought you from Egypt with his presence, with his great and awesome power, dispossessing and driving out before you nations that were greater and mightier than you, to bring you in to give you their land as an inheritance, as it is to this day. Therefore, know and understand today and take it to heart that the Lord is God in heaven above and on earth below. There is no other. So you shall keep his statutes and his commandments, let me say that again. So you shall keep his statutes and his commandments, which I am commanding you today, so that it may go well with you and with your children after you, and so that you may live long on the land which the Lord your God is giving you for all time. So I'm just going to stop there. But one of the things, there's so many things about this that are fascinating to me. We know that Moses is talking to the children of Israel when they're coming out. They've come out of the land of Egypt, and he has given them the 10 commandments. God has given them the 10 commandments in how they are to live when they possess the land that God is giving them. And so we know that they haven't crossed over yet because Moses is still there, and he is not going to be crossing over into the promised land with them. And so the thing, though, that really caught my attention about this is just how many times he tells them. And we can look at this in our own lives because we can. So how many times he tells them, he starts out, listen, pay attention to the commands, God's legal decisions, so that you may live long and possess the land that I'm giving you, that God is giving them. Only pay attention. Watch yourselves. Do not forget the things that you have seen with your eyes. They do not depart from your heart. And then it says, make them known to your children, your grandchildren. Impress these things on their minds and penetrate their heart with these truths. So, because we know that obviously a whole generation, if you read before this, a whole generation of them had been killed because they had not obeyed God. And then there was another generation that came. And so, and then that generation needed to tell their children, because they had physically, personally had not walked through and seen the water parting and all of the things that God had done. And so it was important. So another thing to do is to remember. It is so important for us as believers to remember. Even though I wasn't there when they crossed the Jordan, it's important for me to remember. To remember not only what God has done in my life, but also what God has done in the children of Israel, in all of our lives. Like, because the testimony, there's something about when someone tells you a story, like, let's say you're going through something and someone says, hey, let me tell you about what God did for me. And then they share with you, and it builds your faith, and you start to realize, if God can do it for them, he can do it for me too. And so that's why we remember. And so God tells us, he tells us what to do. Listen and obey, pay attention. He repeats it. Okay. There's a lot of repeating going on, and that's on purpose. Because we need a lot of repeating as people, right? Make them known to your children. So that they will know, so that they will walk with God. Learn to fear me, learn to fear God with an awe-filled reverence and profound respect all the days. And then it goes on, tells you what not to do. And this was something he repeats often. When he met with them and talked to them, it was just his voice. And he specified, he said, I talked to you. You only heard my voice. You didn't see a form. And that was intentional, because it was intentional that they didn't see a form. He didn't want them to create, they already had an issue of creating, an idol. And he wanted them to follow his commands. And so, of course, do not worship, act corruptly, and make for yourselves a carved or sculpted image of any form. The sun, the moon, mere created bodies. When we worship, when you hear people worshiping statues, just the other day, I heard that you could buy a carved Buddha statue from, I don't know, one of these big box stores. Wow, that is really crazy. It says a mere created thing. It can't hear, it can't talk, and it can't smell. So be on your guard. Watch yourself. Do not forget the covenant of the Lord your God, which he made with you. Do not worship carved or sculpted image. So he tells us, he shows us. He doesn't just tell us what not to do. He shows us. And he reminds us there's consequences. It doesn't matter of all of our actions, right? So he says, if you do these things of disobeying, of serving the idols, the Lord will scatter you. So he was clear. He said, this is what's going to happen to you. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. But from there, you will seek the Lord your God, and you will find him when you seek him with all your heart. And you will return to the Lord your God and listen to his voice. For the Lord your God is merciful and compassionate God. He will not fail you nor destroy you or forget the covenant. It is so fascinating to me that he tells us exactly, he gives us an outline, he shows us what the consequences are, and he repeatedly reminds us. And it is interesting because we are definitely a people who are made to worship, because you see it. People run after their favorite singers, or they, but we need to not run after our favorite singers. We need to not run after our favorite movie actors. We need to run after God. So anyway, let us be a people who search for the Lord our God with all our heart and our mind and our soul, with our whole being, so that we can be all that God has called us to. And I love you all. This one went long, but I hope that you listen to the end. Let's dig into God's word and pay attention to all the commandments that God has, so that we can live long in this world. And